Hi, welcome back. My name is Adelle as always. It's Candid Talk where we get to talk about things that impact your growth and make you accountable. So this is a growth and accountability channel, but most importantly, the things that you would ignore to talk about, we talk about them on this channel. If you've not subscribed yet, please do take that minute of your time and subscribe. It keeps us going. It keeps me motivated, so please do that. And also that bell button to make sure that you get to watch this then immediately it comes out. Today, we're talking about landlords and tenants. Most of us are tenants. If you're not tenant, then you are landlord. One of the two. I don't know if you can fall outside that, but let's talk about that. Do you know your rights, your duties? And I'm still joined by my special friend, so let's get started. Michael,
Yes.
you've been a part of this channel,
Yes.
and we love you and we appreciate you.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you too for having me always, and I'm always happy to come back.
I don't take it for granted.
Yeah, thank you. I know it's a good thing to always have someone who can always come back. So I'm always happy that I'm always coming back.
Thank
It's
you.
also because I like Candid Talk. This is a very good channel,
Thank you.
which I think that everyone out there, please subscribe and always make sure you get the notifications of what's
Yes.
going on.
Thank you. So I don't know if you're a landlord or a tenant.
You can be both. You can be both.
You can be both.
Yeah.
You can decide to become a landlord and
And then the tenant somewhere.
yes,
Yeah.
and somewhere.
Yeah.
Or if you're not, then you're also a tenant in someone else's building.
Yes.
You're owning a business. So
Yes.
either way,
Yeah.
you can fall in either of these categories. The question is, do you know your rights? Do you know what you're supposed to be doing? And this was encompassed in the Landlords and Tenants Act that was assented to also this year in 2022. Oh,
Yes.
so many things are happening.
You have very many good things. And
So what is a tenant and a landlord supposed to know before they have that relationship? Because I know this act is meant to streamline the relationship between the two parties.
yes,
What are they supposed to know before they actually say, you know what, you're my tenant and you're my landlord?
all right. So what is important is that the relationship of tenant and landlord needs to be clear
Yeah.
and identifiable. Of course, in the in the heat of things, there's been always an issue. I am not your tenant. And normally it's I'm not your tenant. it's difficult for people to say I'm not your landlord.
Yeah.
Because normally they are coming after their rent. But there's a relationship. The moment I'm giving you money, it's a contract in itself that you've made your offer, there's a service I'm paying for, that is rent and shelter, and in turn I'm getting money. Now, usually, these ones are not written down. And the law is making reference to the Contracts Act. If you have any relationship that the amount of money you're paying is above 500,000 Ugandan shillings,
Yeah.
the law says you must write it down. At least, because tomorrow is going to be the only evidence to be used.
True.
Because the Contracts Act says if you are doing any business, not even any business, anything that is involving money above 500,000 Ugandan shillings, you must write a contract, which is the same. The Landlord and Tenant Act is now saying those should be in writing, because then we need to have this relationship streamlined. There are things that that the landlord says to you that no one ever knows that they said them. And then in the end, you said, no, but he said.
But he told me.
But
It
he
becomes
said.
a hearsay kind of thing.
But he told me that he has given me this 1 month to sort myself. No, you have to write it down.
Yeah.
The other issue is that there has been this issue of increment of rent, where people just wake up every day and do it. The law is saying, if you must do that, you cannot exceed 10% of that, the annual amount that someone has been paying. You can't exceed 10% of the annual amount. Annually. And so what that means is that if you've been paying 500,000 shillings,
They
the
can't
only
increase.
amount that can be increased in that year is
50,000.
50,000.
Clear.
Yeah.
10%.
10%.
Yes.
And you must even give notice. It doesn't end there. 60 days notice.
Yeah.
Now let's give someone notice that I'm going to increase rent. But even that rate should not increase more than 10%.
Isn't that a good thing?
It's a good thing because people have been always increasing every year almost 100%.
As the expenses have increased, management for the building has increased, so
Yes.
we're going to increase by 30%.
We're going to increase 30%.
The law says 10%.
10%.
And the landlord must give you notice
Yes.
of
But I
rental
intend
increment.
to. Yes. in 60 days.
At least 60 days.
Now,
that's
what,
2 months.
Yes, that's 2
months.
months. What that means is that as a state has a responsibility to protect its citizens and the wealth. And also the state has to come in to protect some relationships. Because everyone in this country is affected by those two. You're either a tenant or a landlord somewhere.
True.
And in most cases, the tenants are the ones that have less power. Because, you know, they are like the servants, you know, in the olden days. Because then you are the one who is giving your money for a service.
True.
And, you know, I've had people say, if you don't want my house, go get another one. So another thing, what this law does, it does away what we call distress for rent. Distress for rent was a procedure where if someone has failed to pay rent, you go to court and you force court to give you, you know, a certificate, an order to say, go pick all the things they have and get your money. Yeah. So the law is saying no. Now that procedure is taken away. So the thing is, you must pay someone's money. And actually, the law now empowers the landlord to just give you a 30 days notice and you're evicted for failure of paying rent.
And that's one thing, a right and a duty of a tenant.
Yeah.
You must pay your rent. It's a service.
Yeah.
So you must pay for it.
You must pay rent. Yeah, you must pay rent.
I agree. You must pay for that service.
Yeah.
And the other element of eviction and all that, there's termination of your tenancy agreement.
Yes.
What is the law saying right now?
So normally we had the common law, you know, position where you know, depending on the length of the tenancy, then that is also is determined by the length of the tenancy determines the time frame. But now the law is saying that, you know, at least you should give someone 30 days notice, at least the bare minimum of, you know, I'm terminating this contract. But in most cases, it is 3 months. 3 months notice of termination. So which is also very important, because people just wake up in the night and say, you leave my house. But you see, you must follow the law.
True.
But also, one of the other important aspects of this law is the effect that we now have what we call the offense of annoyance. The landlords, this time round, they came for you.
Yeah.
You know how landlords come and say, you're even eating chicken.
And I'm not eating it.
And you're not paying my rent. But your rent is 1 million. This chicken was donated to me by Adelle.
Yes.
Aren't I allowed to eat my chicken? And then they will come and say, I have heard stories of landlords who go and actually uproot the door. They uproot the door from
that is so wrong.
Yeah, they uproot the door from the tenant's room and say, until you pay my money. So that's an offense of annoyance.
Yeah.
And actually, a landlord can go to prison for that. Imagine you going to prison because you went to demand and create annoyance. Yeah. What the law is trying to say that let us have harmony. I know they are your houses.
You're the landlord. You know,
Yeah.
but let's have peace.
Let's have some peace.
Have some peace.
Yes, have some peace. Because you see, the thing is, once someone is evicted, they become homeless.
Yeah.
And the state has an obligation to ensure that its citizens are safe. So that's why it comes in.
You're causing insecurity.
In other words. So what the law, what the policy is because you see, government makes policies through laws, is that if you want to go into the business of being a landlord or owning a building, you must abide by this.
Yeah.
The other aspect is the issue of money. Normally, people have been forcing us to pay rent in dollars, and they know they are hearing, they are seeing, they are watching. They force us to pay rent in dollars. Yeah. It's unfair that we are earning in shillings, but we must raise dollars. Our shilling is the weakest in the region. Now, you're telling us to pay in dollars. The law is saying, no, it's no longer mandatory. You can agree.
If you agree to pay
if you agree,
dollars,
that's fine. There are people who earn in dollars, but it's no longer mandatory. So now, do you know why? The landlords go and borrow money in dollars and want to shift the entire the burden to the tenants and say, pay me in dollars. I don't care at that point whether the rate will be 4,000 shillings or 5,000 shillings. I do not care. I don't want to make losses. But look here, I am earning. Your building is in Uganda. It is paying tax in UGX. I am earning in Ugandan shillings. Why are you telling me to pay in dollars? So the law is saying no more paying in dollars unless you guys agree. So by and large, I think that in my own view, I knew that the landlords were fighting this because it's not the first time. because it was passed the first time and then they made noise and then
it went back,
but then it's been passed. And I think it's okay that any business needs to be regulated.
Yeah.
How come our business as lawyers, we have a whole law on our remuneration? We don't just wake up and say like a school and you set your own school fees. True. That's the argument I've been saying. You can't just wake up as a landlord and say, no, the law is saying this is it. Yeah. And the other aspect, which is about taxation policy again, is that certain amounts of money, the landlord is supposed to create an account in which you deposit that money. You know how they have been looking for people to pay tax, and how people, property tax and rental tax, yes, and all these things. And now, when you have a tin, and then you're paying through a bank, so they will know that this money is coming from this tenant.
Specific.
Yes. So now, whoever thought that they would launder money or hide their money into apartments and what have you, now the law is coming.
But also, that when you talk about the taxes and elements, the taxes are an obligation of the landlord,
yes,
not
the tenant. Actually, taxes, charges, for example, if there are KCCA charges, yeah, sewer charges, all those other charges are to be borne by the landlord. But most cases have been passed on to the tenant, because the tenant is only, is only responsible for the charges within them, like water and the utility bills normally. But charges like, KCCA ground rent and what have you, that's the responsibility of the landlord.
True. And as a tenant, please pay your utility bills. It's important because that's your right, yeah, that's your responsibility. So don't leave that to the landlord. Yeah. And then we have tenants who come in and want to turn the wall, face the other way. How does a landlord survive that under this law?
So even this has been the previous undertaking, yeah, because normally this relationship is a contract relationship. Of course. And it's coming from the common law and the way we used to do things. So there are implied conditions and implied terms. So yours, this is what the landlord is supposed to do. Give you the house, give you quiet possession. Have the house, yours is to do what? Pay, and ensure that whatever you do in that house, you must get consent. You don't wake up and say, I think I like pink on the outside, but it's not your house. You're actually paying for a service, not a good. The service is that they have given you this space in which you want to sleep in and cook. Yeah. So if you want to make an adjustment, it's not your house. So you must seek for permission. So if you do it without the permission, actually you are breaching a term of an agreement. And the landlord can choose either to terminate or even ask you to make good the damage.
Is that why the issue of security deposit comes in? Because also the law talks about security deposit. Most people don't know what to do with this money after, whether to claim it back or not. How does security deposit work?
So what the law is saying, it actually does not even talk about the security. You see, it says you cannot make people pay money beyond 3 months. Because normally people say, I want money to be paid in 6 months in advance. The law is saying, no, you can't do that. So the security deposit ideally is supposed to help to sort those costs. If, for example, you're leaving tomorrow and I need to, I need to renovate my house. So what we'll see is that we shall calculate how much I need to renovate my house back to the position I gave it to you. Now, if it is the amount is more than your security deposit, then you pay and top up. If it's less, we'll give you less that. But how many people ask for this?
Of course.
Normally, there are few relationships where people are living willingly and are saying, the contract has ended. Normally, it is of, you leave my house today. So the relationship normally at the end is, yes, of Tom and Jerry, like go away. So when you have a Tom and Jerry relationship, then you can't discuss things of, okay, how much is the paint, how much money did I deposit? So people just need to look out and say that deposit money is your money. It is a reducing balance when we are sorting out, okay.
Or the small things.
Yeah, small things. In the house. Yeah.
There was a query that this act is favoring the landlord, the tenants more than the landlords. Is it actually true? I do think it's streamlining the relationship and making it clear.
Yes, it is. And you see, and I would say they are right in a way, because you see, the tenants were at a weaker side. Yeah. There was no framework that was protecting them, because I am the landlord, coming from the medieval history of the landlords who own chunks of land and having these tenants and servants, yeah, and what have you. So as a policy framework, you protect the weak against the strong, but also strike a balance, which I think the law has done. The law hasn't said don't charge rent. It's not even putting a cap on the amount of rent. It's just streamlining. So if you're, and also this is the time for people to do proper business. Don't go into real estate just because your neighbor is making money. Yeah, so I think that the law is a good one, and I actually appreciate it, and say that it's not difficult, by the way. Just do the agreement. Look for lawyers and let lawyers help you. Even if you're a tenant, they just send you a document and say...
Make sure you read it.
You read it.
Him understand it.
Yeah, people always say, where am I signing? Where am I signing? It's okay to say, let me take it, review, and I'll get back to you tomorrow.
Sure.
Even whether it's a back document, people are always in a rush to get a loan, and they don't read all those smaller, finer details at the back. So it's always important that you streamline this. And it also helps you. Even if it's a one-pager, write down the terms of the agreement.
I agree. I do think that going forward, if you've been watching this, you know your rights and your duties as a tenant or as a landlord. And I also know that we can have a harmonious way of living. Really, we don't have to keep pulling ropes because you're a landlord. Tomorrow I am one, tomorrow you could be one, so we could find ourselves in the same space. It's important that we live together in harmony. In your final words, what would you tell people who are tenants that things they must look out for? And now I'm focusing on tenants because it's important.
Yeah.
Because they are the weaker part in this agreement.
Yeah.
What is your final word to a tenant?
I think for the tenant is that once you're going to that house, you're not going to buy it. You're going to hire a service. So equally allowed to be bound by certain terms. But look out for things like periods. Look out for terms in terms of what are they talking about, the amount of money. What are they talking about, increment? Others hide it there. And they say we shall increase this thing, every day, gradually at 20%. But the law is saying, no, you can't. It's 10%. And you must give someone notice. Look out for termination. True. In most cases, there is no termination. It is important to say that this can be terminated by either party by giving either party 3 months notice. Agree to that. That is okay. It's your contract. But also, it's important to understand the obligations of the landlord. Because most tenants agreements said the landlord has a right to re-entry, to enter and inspect premises whenever they need to. So you sign that, the landlord comes and says, I'm inspecting, and you say, you can't come in my house. That is not your house.
Yes, and that is actually almost agreements I've read.
Yeah.
The landlord is allowed to come in and see how his structure is doing or his place of abode. Yeah,
but just be within the reasonable time.
Yes, of course.
Don't come at 9 p.m.
No.
And say, I want to inspect my house. Why 9 p.m.?
I know.
Yeah.
But you can't stop him from entering
and
assessing.
Yeah, but also in the spirit of harmony, they have to notify you that I'll be coming to do some tomorrow. Inspections, and then it's okay, because that's the relationship. People think that, you're coming into my privacy, but that's not your house.
I know.
I like the sad story. It's not your house. It's their house.
I do believe, as we conclude this, that we can live harmoniously well with our landlords, with our tenants. We can be happy, and actually can create friendships and connections.
Yes.
Why not?
Yes.
Because that's where it all begins.
Actually, tomorrow you can buy the property from your landlord.
You cannot.
Yeah.
So please, if you are a tenant and a landlord, understand your rights under this act so that you are not taken advantage of, but also you're able to defend yourself if anything goes wrong. The law is there to protect you. Please find refuge in it. And if not, consult the lawyers. They'll be able to help you understand your contract, the terms in that contract, and if it's a good one at that. And if it's not, then you'll be advised accordingly. We are Candid Talk. Please do subscribe and let us know what you think, and leave a comment in the comment section, and we'll be happy to read it next time, or even tell us what you want us to talk about. We'll see you in our next episode. Thank you for watching, and do subscribe. Bye.